Ernest Hemingway, an American writer. Ernest Hemingway, Nobel Prize winner Ernest Hemingway is seen as one of the great American 20th century novelists and is known for works like A Farewell to Arms and The Old Man and the Sea. Who was Ernest Hemingway? Ernest Hemingway served in World War I and worked in journalism before publishing his story collection In Our Time. He was renowned for novels like The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and The Old Man and the Sea, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 1953. In 1954, Hemingway won the Nobel Prize. He committed suicide on July 2, 1961, in Ketchum, Idaho. Early life and career. Ernest Miller Hemingway was born on July 21, 1899 in Cicero, now in Oak Park, Illinois. Clarice and Grace Hemingway raised their son in this conservative suburb of Chicago, but the family also spent a great deal of time in northern Michigan, where they had a cabin. It was there that the future sportsman learned to hunt, fish, and appreciate the outdoors. In high school, Hemingway worked on his school newspaper, Travis and Tabula, writing primarily about sports. Immediately after graduation, the budding journalist went to work for the Kansas City Star, gaining experience that would later influence his distinctively stripped-down prose style. He once said, "On the Star you were forced to learn to write a simple declarative sentence. This is useful to anyone. Newspaper work will not harm a young writer and could help him if he gets out of it in time." Military experience of Ernest Hemingway. In 1918, Hemingway went overseas to serve in World War I as an ambulance driver in the Italian army. For his service, he was awarded the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery, but soon sustained injuries that landed him in a hospital in Milan. There, he met a nurse named Agnes von Korosky, who soon accepted his proposal of marriage, but later left him for another man. This devastated the young writer, but provided fodder for his works, A Very Short Story, and more famously, A Farewell to Arms. Still nursing his injury and recovering from the brutalities of war at the young age of 20, he returned to the United States and spent time in northern Michigan before taking a job at the Toronto Star. It was in Chicago that Hemingway met Hadley Richardson, the woman who would become his first wife. The couple married and quickly moved to Paris, where Hemingway worked as a foreign correspondent for the Star. Life in Europe. In Paris, Hemingway soon became a key part of what Gertrude Stein would famously call the Lost Generation. With Stein as his mentor, Hemingway made the acquaintance of many of the great writers and artists of his generation, such as F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ezra Pound, Pablo Picasso, and James Joyce. In 1923, Hemingway and Hadley had a son, John Hadley Nicanor Hemingway. By this time, the writer had also begun frequenting the famous festival of San Fermin in Pamplona, Spain. In 1925, the couple, joining a group of British and American expatriates, took a trip to the festival that would later provide the basis of Hemingway's first novel, The Sun Also Rises. The novel is widely considered Hemingway's greatest work, artfully examining the post-war disillusion meant of his generation. Soon after the publication of The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway and Hadley divorced, due in part to his affair with a woman named Pauline Pfeiffer, who would become Hemingway's second wife shortly after his divorce from Hadley was finalized. The author continued to work on his book of short stories, Men Without Women. Critical acclaim. Soon, Pauline became pregnant and the couple decided to move back to America after the birth of their son Patrick Hemingway in 1928. They settled in Key West, Florida, but summered in Wyoming. During this time, Hemingway finished his celebrated World War I novel, A Farewell to Arms, securing his lasting place in the literary canon. When he wasn't writing, Hemingway spent much of the 1930s chasing adventure, big game hunting in Africa, bullfighting in Spain, and deep-sea fishing in Florida. While reporting on the Spanish Civil War in 1937, Hemingway met a fellow war correspondent named Martha Gellhorn, soon to become wife number 3, and gathered material for his next novel, For Whom the Bell Tolls, which would eventually be nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. Almost predictably, his marriage to Pfeiffer deteriorated and the couple divorced. Gellhorn and Hemingway married soon after and purchased a farm near Havana, Cuba, which would serve as their winter residence. When the United States entered World War II in 1941, Hemingway served as a correspondent and was present at several of the war's key moments, including the D-Day landing. Toward the end of the war, Hemingway met another war correspondent, Mary Welsh, whom he would later marry after divorcing Gellhorn. In 1951, Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea, which would become perhaps his most famous book, finally winning him the Pulitzer Prize he had long been denied. Personal struggles and suicide. The author continued his forays into Africa and sustained several injuries during his adventures, even surviving multiple plane crashes. In 1954, he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Even at the peak of his literary career, though, the burly Hemingway's body and mind were beginning to betray him. Recovering from various old injuries in Cuba, Hemingway suffered from depression and was treated for numerous conditions such as high blood pressure and liver disease. He wrote A Movable Feast, a memoir of his year in Paris, and retired permanently to Idaho. There, he continued to battle with deteriorating mental and physical health. Early in the morning of July 2, 1961, Hemingway committed suicide in his Ketchum home. Legacy. Hemingway left behind an impressive body of work and an iconic style that still influences writers today. His personality and constant pursuit of adventure loom almost as large as his creative talent. When asked by George Panton about the function of his art, Hemingway proved once again to be a master of the one true sentence. From things that have happened and from things as they exist and from all things that you know and all those you cannot know. You make something through your invention that is not a representation but a whole new things truer than anything true and alive. And you make it alive. And if you make it well enough, you give it immortality. In August 2018, a 62 years old short story by Hemingway, A Room on the Garden Side, was published for the first time in the The Strand magazine, set in Paris shortly after the liberation of the city from Nazi forces in 1944. The story was one of 5 composed by the writer in 1956 about his World War II experiences. It became the second story from the series to earn posthumous publication, following Black Ass at the Crossroads. 3 best Hemingway novels. The first book is The Sun Also Rises. This book reflects his reliance on his traditional Midwestern values as he encountered new experiences and values in post-World War I in Europe. Using friends and acquaintances that populated the cafes along Boulevard Montparnasse in Paris. He reveals his concern about the valueless life of these lost generation characters and begins his personal and literary search for meaning in what appears to be a godless world. In the midst of their heavy drinking and meaningless revelry during a fiesta in Spain, Pedro Romero, the matador, becomes a hero. He conducts himself with honor and courage, and it is here we see the beginning of what will become the Hemingway Code. This book also reveals Hemingway's courageous attempt to write in a new, different way by portraying the bad and the ugly as well as the beautiful. Though The Sun Also Rises was well received by the critics, it was not well received by Hemingway's acquaintances, who saw themselves portrayed as a self-indulgent alcoholic and sexually promiscuous in his unflattering but honest characterizations. Nor was it well received by his mother, who said he had produced one of the filthiest books of the year. The second book is A Farewell to Arms. It is the fictional account of events that changed and informed his world view. When Hemingway left the security of the Midwest and went to Italy looking for adventures as an ambulance driver in World War I, he got more than he had bargained for. The idealistic Midwesterner joined the war to end all wars, ready to display honor and courage, but was blown up in the trench. Then he fell in love, contemplated marriage, and was rejected by the woman he loved. His confrontation with death, his subsequent bond, and his first experience with love all became catalysts for developing a behavior for facing life's challenges. A Farewell to Arms was a fictional result of Hemingway's experiences in Italy and initiates what will become one of the most dominant themes in his novels, the confrontation of death. Though Catherine Barclay's character seems dated to contemporary female readers, the book still demonstrates that Hemingway used what he learned in Italy to show that war brings out the best and worst in men and women. The third book is The Old Man and the Sea. This book, after the unsuccessful reception to Across the River and Into the Trees, Hemingway wrote his Pulitzer Prize-winning novel to defend his reputation as a writer. Based on experience in Cuba, he created the character of an old fisherman alone in a skiff. The old man catches a great marlin only to have it destroyed by sharks. The old man, who had been champion arm wrestler and a successful fisherman, was like Hemingway trying for a comeback. The old man embraces the code for living that Hemingway first developed based on experiences in World War I. The experiences in which a man confronts an unconquerable element in fighting the sharks. The old man exhibits courage and grace under pressure, believing a man can be destroyed but not defeated. The reviews and success of the book were nothing less than phenomenal. Appropriately, Hemingway was aboard his boat and out on the Gulf Stream when he heard via the ship's radio that the book had been awarded the Pulitzer Prize.